Hi everyone, my name is Dion. Thanks very much for attending this webinar today. And as you know, it's about how small product picking mistakes can trigger big problems, and obviously the big part of that is obviously trying to avoid them. So before we go into it, I just want to give a quick introduction about myself and where my background. So if you've struggled on selling on Amazon in the past, its likelihood is it's not particularly your fault. There is a lot of information flying around, some of it good, some of it bad, and it's very easy to get bamboozled and make the wrong decisions. The main focus of this webinar is to highlight some of the often overlooked or unknown pitfalls that new Amazon sellers face when they're picking their first product to sell on Amazon. If you're already selling on Amazon, hopefully there'll also be some parts of it that are applicable to you as well going forward. My goal is to help Amazon sellers who are suffering with underperforming products fix those, and give back Amazon sellers what is our most valuable asset, which is time. A bit of my story. So I was brought up in the UK in a village in Wiltshire, and I soon realised I wanted to get out of that village as quickly as I could and see the big wide world. And the way I saw of doing that was by joining the army. My dad was in the army, my stepdad was in the army, so it was kind of inevitable being on an army training barracks and whatever that I would eventually end up going down that route. So I joined pretty much 6 months after I left school, the REME, as an aircraft technician, went to Army College and so on. And to begin with, life was great. I was obviously a young lad with a fair amount of money, considering my age. My first posting was to Germany, where got paid extra money for being there, and there was cheap cars and beer and all that sort of stuff. So it was great to begin with. But in 1996 is when I met my now wife, and that's when I realised that soon after that and it wasn't the life I wanted for my family. So I left in 2001 after serving 10 years, expecting to have all this freedom that the army doesn't allow. I mean, there is obviously the discipline side of the army, which is great, and I think that's a great quality that stood with me the test of time. But knowing that one day I could be sent literally halfway across the road and I had no choice, and it wasn't the pleasing side. So I thought once I joined, I left and become a civilian, life would be much better. But unfortunately, the rat race wasn't as good as I expected. I was traveling, as I'm sure some of you are used to, traveling an hour or 2 hours sometimes to work, and then back again each day. And then so I looked for another way. I thought there has to be a better way. And that's when I started looking at various other internet and network marketing companies. There's not a lot I haven't tried over the last 18 years. And I dread to think how much I've spent overall in these various courses. A lot of it's been invested in people like the character that you see there. And it took me a long time to realize that there's a lot of so-called gurus out there that they only make their money from selling the course. They haven't actually got any history or any proof that what they're selling actually works. It's just the fact that they're selling the course to a lot of gullible people like myself. And it's not going to stop anytime soon. But thankfully, eventually I realized that I had to do something different. And then, so for the next course that the course I bought 6 years or so, 7 years ago now, was an Amazon course, and I made sure I did my due diligence on the people selling the course, and did the best that I possibly could to know that the people selling the course are the real deal. They've been in the trenches. They've tested the stuff that they're teaching they're now trying to teach to people, and they're genuine and they really want to help people. So I launched my first product in 2013, and it was the first time that I actually started making money with one of those so-called schemes that I was participating in. And this was my first product. a 3-in-1 sunscreen, which was really picking up and growing momentum. I was starting to add new products to it, but unfortunately I had a problem with a supplier in the end. Found out that she wasn't actually FDA registered, so obviously I had to stop that immediately, because you don't want to get into trouble with the FDA, obviously. But that's one of those bumps that happens in business, regardless of what business you're in, and it's just like one of those things that happens, and you just take from it that you will, and learn and grow from it, and hopefully don't make the same mistake again. So early last year is when I started my consultancy, and that came about, just by accident really, because I obviously had that experience on Amazon, and my friends and family and business acquaintances knew about it, and they started coming to me and asking me questions and how I could help them with what they were doing with it, either to pick a product, or they had a product that would needed to get more reviews, rankings, and so on. So I then decided that I would focus more on the consulting side going forward. So after saying about the consultants, why the gurus out there, why am I consulting? Well, as I said, I genuinely believe I'm here to help prevent you from making the mistakes that I've made. I've done it. I've been there. I've launched products. I've ranked products. I've suffered the dealing with Amazon seller support, which if you haven't done yet, if you do, you'll soon know that they are pretty painful to deal with. But I have that experience, and hope to pass on my experience to you and prevent some of the mistakes that I've made. And I'm not going to say as well that I'm a millionaire and all the rest of it. I've got living the dream lifestyle, because I'm not there yet. But that's down to what I believe. I haven't helped enough people, and I always refer back to this quote from Zig Ziglar, which is, you can have everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. So hopefully today it will go some way to helping you as well. So the key takeaway I want you to get from today's session is that the foundation to picking a winning product is keyword research, and on top of that is a competitor analysis. And the only way to do this right is by putting in more hours and digging deeper than your competitors. Do all the work up front, front load the workload, and try and avoid any risks down the line, which could become more costly when you're at the stage of ordering products from suppliers and so on. If you can try and avoid any costly mistakes now by doing fairly tedious work, to be perfectly honest with you, and dismissing products that could cause you problems early on, then that's going to save you so much time and effort and money at the end of the day down the line. So how do these tips apply to you? So it works, I'd say, for no matter what product you're thinking of selling on Amazon. And if you do this extra work, which most people don't, it makes it possible to sell where others can't. And literally anyone can do this. You don't need to be a brain surgeon or rocket science, whatever, to do this. You just need to put the effort in and be willing to learn. So what we're going to cover is how to discover level of demand through keyword research, doing some competitor analysis, your budgeting, and touch on dealing with suppliers. Now, there is a lot to cover here, and I'm only I'm not going to go too deep into it, because you could break these down into sessions themselves quite easily, and it's probably going to raise a lot of questions as well. We will have a short question and answer session at the end. But if you do have anything beyond that, I'm going to leave my contact details at the end as well, so you can contact me afterwards, and I'll be more than willing to help you. But don't worry about if you can just take one thing away from this webinar, then that's more than enough. So starting with keyword research, then, and this is what I know, the mind map that I use when creating and looking for products. And as you can see, the keyword research is quite deliberately there at the bottom, and everything from there comes out of the good keyword research. Just to touch on some of these. So you need keyword research to know what keywords to focus on and what to rank for. It helps obviously when you off Amazon, if you're doing sorts of Facebook ads or Google AdWords and things. Obviously, you need to know what keywords to be using. And one area that I see a lot of my clients and associates where we can really let themselves down with the businesses. They don't do any monthly business planning. So at the end of the month, you sit down, you look at the past month and see what's done well, what you've done badly, and obviously divert your attention to the things that are doing badly. But if you're not tracking or monitoring your results, then you clearly don't know. So that's one thing as well to definitely look at. Track your results wherever you can, whether that's keyword ranking, reviews, and so on. And so just get past that just to zoom in. So let's get that. So just so we're finding some keywords and just run through. This is obviously the manual way of doing it. So imagine that you've thought of a product you'd want to launch, and in this case, we're going to use a fleece blanket as an example. A manual way of finding the keywords that are selling and what people are looking for. Is obviously that's the key to the sales. Is simply coming into Amazon itself, starting to type in your keywords, and then you see what this Amazon suggests bars pops up, and giving you obviously what people are searching for there. Now you can go through these and change it, and then put different keywords and stuff, and then add them to a spreadsheet manually, which is obviously can do, but obviously time consuming. But wherever possible, I prefer to use software to speed up that process. And this one is one called Helium 10, which you may have heard of. There are various other tools out there that do similar things, like Jungle Scout, Selex, and so on. So if you're already using one, just stick with that as well. So, but just to give an example of how I use Helium 10, it's not the only one I use myself. I've got this and other ones as well, and some proprietary software that I use myself. But in this example, we're looking for, my goal is to find a maximum of 10 major keywords and 10 minor keywords. I'm not looking certainly for hundreds of keywords, because if you have too many keywords, what that does is it dilutes the relevance of your listing. I know in the past I've heard people they're ranked for 100 keywords, but that's no good to you if they're not relevant to your product. If someone searches for your product and it's not unrelated to what you're selling, they're just going to bounce away, which is going to hurt your conversion rate and hurt your ranking. So just strong advice, don't do it. Just keep your keywords focused and narrowed down as much as possible. So in this example, obviously there's a tool called Cerebro. It goes out and scrapes keywords from the various listings that you enter into it. In this case, it's brought back 17,593 keywords, which is obviously too much to deal with. You can't physically deal with that. So you play around with the filters, and obviously too much there would return 0. But here's my sweet spot. I look to find around about 100 keywords. And the filters that I use are the minimum search volume of, in this case, of 500. This is an estimate. A couple of years ago, there was a hack that most of these softwares were utilizing in Amazon, which did give the actual search volume out of Amazon. But Amazon closed that loop, as I say, a year or so ago. So these are just estimates now. However, they are better than not having any data at all, and it just gives they are using their level playing field for all the different products. So it does give you an idea. But if not particularly accurate, it does give you some idea. So we've got search volume of 500, the match type further along, which is organic, obviously, and then we've got ranking competitors of 5. What that means is that for all of these keywords that are listed, there are at least 5 other competitors that are showing up for that keyword. And this is where you got to get the balance between competition too much and no competition at all. If you've got no competition, then the chances are there's no chance of sales, because no one's actually competing for that keyword, and there has to be a good reason for that. But too much competition, it's going to be very difficult to get into, particularly when it comes to budget, if they've got thousands of reviews and so on, which I'll touch on a bit more in the presentation. So once I've got these keywords, what I do is filter them by search volume, highest at the top, and I'm looking for keywords initially as well that I won't initially thought of. So as I say, the example is we know we want a fleece blanket, so we put fleece blanket into initial search. But what we want to try and do is find keywords that perhaps are being missed by most of the competition, which could be an opportunity as to exploit by targeting those keywords first to get that initial sales going when we launch a product. So some that I've highlighted here is fluffy blanket and throws for settees large. I mean, that certainly is way different from fleece blanket. And the good thing with that is you can see the search volume for the throws for settees blankets is 4,400, but the competing products is very low. There's around 613 products as opposed to the one above, 20,000. So that could be a good opportunity to launch a product and pick the low-hanging fruit, so to speak. And just as examples, some more there. You've got snuggle blanket, throws for sofas and chairs. And then here we've got the one that says the grey throws. This is the first time that a colour has been mentioned. So in this case, if you hadn't thought about what colour you were going to launch, then you might think, right, well, grey is definitely one of the most sought after colours. So I need to at least have that as an option, if not the only one that I launch with, because that is the most popular colour. And just another one is there's faux fur throw blanket. So you can see there's a lot of different keywords which potentially you would not have thought about doing it in the manual method. And this is where it's great that such tools like this can help in finding that and also speeding up the process. And again, just to talk about, so the fleece blankets is the main search terms with a search volume of 9,129. Now, instead of thinking, I need to get for that one, which is the most competitive, again, it's going to be a struggle hardest to get ranked for. You can look at these lesser known, less competitive keywords, and you start adding up the volume from those, you can quite easily get to those 9,000. So just something to be aware of. You don't have to get the main keyword to get the search volume required to make a good income, just by going after the lesser competitive keywords. And then here is where I've thrown the main products into a spreadsheet and got their rankings. And so, as I said, the third from the bottom, sorry I can't use my pointer to show you exactly where I am. And third from the bottom, throws for settees large. You can see that there's only one product ranking on page 1 for that keyword. So that again suggests that is a good keyword to start with, and less competitive, and you're going to have a good chance of ranking for that keyword, and with very good search volume there as well. And obviously there has to be a large throw for that to happen. So this works for any product. So just some reviews from some of my competitors where I've helped them to identify keywords not my competitors, my clients, who I've helped them to identify keywords they hadn't thought about, and obviously increasing their sales by doing that. So moving on then to competitor analysis. This, I think, is one of the biggest things is overlooked by Amazon sellers or new Amazon sellers today, is how many reviews are required to be to be on a level playing field with the existing products. And I'm sure you all know about how Amazon's been under scrutiny for reviews and fake reviews and what have you. So it's a lot harder today to get reviews than it was 6 or 7 years ago. But you have to have social proof for anyone to buy your product. So in this case of the fleece blanket, hopefully you can see at the top right, the first organic ranked product on the top right, they have 17,398 reviews. The second one, 8,000 odd, and so on. So if the first page was full of products that had hundreds or thousands of reviews, you need to think about, have I really got much chance of staying ranked on that page if I'm trying to join the market with 0 or 5, 10 15 reviews, because people are going to, if you imagine you've got the comparison between, you've got one product that's got 1,000 reviews and your brand new product with 5 or 15, 20 reviews, the chances, if there's nothing with regards to price and what have you, then it's a very good chance, a high likelihood, they're going to go with the product that's got the social proof and a lot more reviews. So you would look to walk away from that product if you were competing against something that's so well established with those reviews. However, in this case, whilst there is, the first couple of listings do have 1,000 reviews, there are also ones that have not very many reviews at all. So there's one there with 49, the one with the blanket, which only has 9 reviews, 61 reviews, and then further down the page, you've got 46 reviews, 5 reviews. So in this case, if you had, I would say, at least 30 odd reviews during, you look to gather your reviews during your pre-launch phase, depending on what strategies that you use, then you've got a good chance there of sticking your rank. Amazon do the early reviewer program where you can get 5 reviews, but I would suggest you need more than that in any case, whatever product you're launching, because they themselves as well, as part of their sponsored ad accreditation that I went through, they suggest you have at least 15 reviews before you even think about doing sponsored ads. So really think how you're going to get these initial reviews before you launch your product and how many you actually need. There are obviously various ways off Amazon ways of doing it, but again, that's subject to the more advanced strategies that I reserve potentially for another session or for my clients. Another area to look at is there room to grow within that market? So in this example, you decide how much revenue you want to make per month. You identify a product, which is the one at the bottom. So say we're looking at this product at the bottom, we want to make turnover 2,000 pounds per month, the same as this product at the bottom. However, if that was the maximum, all the products in this category were selling, then obviously there's no room for growth there, and that potentially is not a sustainable long-term business. So what I'm looking for is other products which are selling obviously a higher revenue. So in this case, the top selling product is selling 10 times just under 21,000 pounds per month. So that suggests there that there is room to grow. Once you start generating some momentum and getting some organic reviews, there is opportunity, and again, it comes down to reinvesting your profits and whatever into the business. There is an opportunity to potentially get way beyond your initial goal and make more profit that way. So definitely check that there is room to grow within that market. Then you need to look at, can you beat the competitors' listings? A majority of product listings that I look at, there is various ways that can be improved. So for example, this one is around images. They have a good image to begin with, even though it should have a white background as being the main image. But it is a good lifestyle image, which again, a lot of sellers don't include. They normally just have the image of the product and the box, and that's pretty much it. But this one's is good. It's got someone obviously enjoying the products, happy, smiley face, so people can see themselves in the product much easier. However, aside from the fact it should be on a white background, they're not utilizing the other 8 images available to them to tell the story of the product. So this is a case where, looking at this, I can do a better job on this listing, certainly on their images and their bullet points as well. They're only one page. You can look at that and seeing how you can improve on that. By putting the size, putting the features and benefits on it. Here again is an example of not a particularly interesting image. I think what they're trying to show here is that it's machine washable. But again, not exciting. So a better way of doing this image, for example, would be showing someone actually putting it in the washing machine, so that instantly they can see, I don't have to hand wash it, it can go in a washing machine, rather than that's a nice boring label. So again, another place where you can say, yes, I can improve on this listing with my product. Here's an example of a better image. Would be even better, I think, if it's actually real people rather than these cartoon images, and maybe separated out into different images themselves, particularly about the gift. At this price point for this product, for example, is something that people would potentially give as a gift, as an impulse buy, being anything under £15, people would just simply click a button if they're just needing to get something done quickly. So you want to make a bigger image of that makes the perfect gift as a separate image. This is if you can enhance brand content. So if you're brand registered on Amazon, which means you have to have a trademark to be able to do that, you get to put additional images in the product description. So again, you get much better way of showing the brand and the story in the product description, as opposed to if you don't get a brand registry, you just get this text. So if your competitors are not making use of enhanced brand content, and again, you can tick another tick in the box for a way that you can improve on their listing and beat the existing competition. Next subject is product differentiation. With regards to joining a market, if your product is exactly the same as everybody else's, then you need to consider why people would buy your product. Because if it's another Me Too product, you're going against existing players with hundreds of reviews, thousands of reviews. You need to think about why, if any reason, would they buy that product. So I always look as well to make some kind of improvement or modification. And it doesn't have to be anything particularly advanced, but something small, and it could even just be a change in the design, where you could get a design patent, something that could protect your brand. So how I look to see what can be improved is it tells you on your competitors' listings. So in this case, they've got 1,600 reviews. Look at the reviews and the good and probably more importantly, the bad reviews, and find out what people love about the product and see if that's something you can make better for them. Probably more likely is what people complain about the product and what you can do to fix that. So you can then come to the market and say, our product doesn't do this, when you know that's what the market is complaining about. And this again takes some time and some sessions. You sit down and have a brainstorming session and think about simple improvements that you can do. But again, it may also obviously increase the cost. So when you're thinking about your budget, this is another thing you need to consider when you're coming up with that figure. But if you come up with a product improvement, you've got a much better chance, because people will want your product because it's new, it's revolutionary, and it's what people will be looking to do. People like new stuff. Another area you can look to see of people highlighting areas of concern or what things could be made better is in the customer questions and answer section on the listing. And you just want to collate all this evidence, all this data into spreadsheets. And again, this is where I said, this is a lot of upfront work, data intensive, can be quite tedious, but it's so much worth doing this now before you've even thought about spending money on samples and ordering stock and what have you. Then you'll come up with a list of potential product improvements from that analysis, which you can then go to the supplier and find out how they can help you in implementing those. So look now with the budget. Obviously, you need to have, you would have, I'm sure, thought about what your starting budget is. My recommendation today is you need to be talking, I think, £2,500 is something you want to be, as a minimum, really, you want to be thinking about in investing. you may know differently or think differently, but in my experience, you need to be thinking of that with everything that you need to do with your listing and your product to stand out from everybody else. And on top of that, I'd put in a minimum of 15% contingency. And as we spoke about, identify how competitive the market is. Obviously, considering your cost of goods, your minimum ROI and profit margin. We'll touch on these again in shortly, in a bit more detail. And something as well as perhaps is overlooked is any professional services that you're going to need. As I mentioned before, you need a trademark to get the brand registry. You may need to get a professional photographer in to do some high quality lifestyle images, or even just white background images. But you can bootstrap this. But depending on the product that you've got, it may require professional photographs because everyone else is doing the same. You may also need a good copywriter if you don't want to do that yourself. So these are various other things you need to think about on top of your initial just going out and buying a product. So to work out your potential profit margin, there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can do it using the Amazon revenue calculator itself. In this example, just using a mug, you just enter in the similar products that you're looking to source, enter that in, and it'll bring back, ensure that the product package dimensions and weight are similar to what you're looking to source. And then at the bottom there, sorry I can't point it out, but you see in green, you enter in all the details and it tells you what your net profit is in pounds and your net margin. So in this case, £1.97, 21.89% profit. So for me, that's a no-go because I'm looking for 30%. But another tool you can use, again, this is from Helium 10. There are other ones available as well. Does something similar, but gives you some more detail around freight and what have you, and you can play around with it a bit easier, and it'll bring it up on the actual product you're looking at. Just makes it a bit easier as well. The profit margin, as I said, I'm aiming for 30%, and the ROI of 100%, at least 100%. And the reason why I want that is because it helps with cash flow and ordering the stock. And in this case, if the FBA fee is high, is higher, it's actually a benefit when it comes to ROI, because that FBA fee, it helps with your cash flow, because that FBA fee is not paid until obviously that product is sold. So if that's the higher part of the calculation, then it's actually a good thing. Which means you've got more money to spend on, you're spending less on ordering a product than it is before you've actually made the sale. So finding a supplier, I'm using Alibaba's in this example. However, obviously Alibaba is not the only resource that you can use. And depending on your product, it may be that China is not the best place to source a product. There may be another country for a particular material that you're after is better, like India or Vietnam or what have you. So again, think about whether the country you're going for. Don't be afraid to move off Alibaba where the masses are. There's pots of gold to be found if you're willing to go off trail and go and ying where other people are yanging. However, but in this case, I'm just going to quickly talk about Alibaba, which is a quick way of getting some quotes for the product you're looking for. It's this RFQ. And what you do here is just basically enter in what you're looking for, and it'll go out and you'll get lots of responses from Alibaba sellers with quotes and what have you. But before you do this, you need to be absolutely clear on your target price. And don't deviate from that price. You'd have done your sums, you'd have worked out what your profit margins are and whatever, and you need to stick with that. and you'll be surprised actually how much you can bring people down if the quotes do come out higher than you would expect. Definitely don't be afraid to ask him for better terms. And a few tips when you are contacting these suppliers is give the impression you are a large company. You don't want them to think you're a one-man band, because they do tend to give you not the best deal. Be clear that you are contacting multiple suppliers, so that the price must be competitive, or you simply won't deal with them. And be absolutely as clear as you possibly can in the exact materials and design that you're looking for, and wherever possible, send images and and highlighting exactly what you're looking for, arrows pointing to this, that, and the other, because there can be a language barrier as well. So you want to make it as easy as possible to communicate what you want, to ensure you don't have any mishaps down the line once it's actually been produced. And when these quotes start coming in, ensure that you are comparing quotes like for like. You may have a quote come in which is higher than another, or significantly higher, but when you look into it, it's because the higher quote is using a much higher quality material, or it's thicker, and so on, than the cheaper alternative, which potentially will break easily and what have you. So you're not necessarily looking for the cheapest price. You're looking for the best value price, but when these quotes come in, make sure you are comparing like for like. You don't want to go for the cheapest quote, realize it's paper thin, breaks and upsets customers, gets you bad reviews, and the next thing you know, your Amazon is dead, and your Amazon business is dead in the water before you've even started. And when you get to the point of ordering the product, you want to make it clear to them as well that you are going to be inspecting the goods before it leaves the inspection, and also have your acceptance quality levels there. And you're not going to accept anything around whatever the figures that you choose to input here. And that needs to be put on the purchase order as well, to make sure there's no ifs or buts around if anything goes wrong there. And when it comes to sending the sample as well, I found what happens quite a lot is when you ask for a sample, they've got some old sample that's been literally kicked around the floor a few times, which they send you, and they'll say, this is just a sample. When you order the product, there'll be a much higher, better quality example. Don't accept that, because again, that can cause you massive problems down the road, because it turns out that when you order the actual load, your product, they're exactly the same. So try and get them to send you a brand new product as per the exact specification that you're looking for. And then when again on the purchase order, if you're happy with the sample that they sent, you add to the purchase order that the materials and the quality must be exactly the same as the sample sent. Then afterwards, when it comes to reordering, assuming everything goes great and you sell out, look to get better terms, because cash flow can become a problem once you start to grow. So you can then go back to them and ask for better terms. So usually when you order a product, it's a 30% 30% deposit, and then the balance is paid before shipment after the inspection. But you can ask for things like, well, less of a deposit, can we pay and then also, this is quite a big one, is you ask to pay the balance once it arrives at Amazon. So you then haven't got your money tied up in stock. If it's sea shipped, and it would take 6 or so weeks, your money's not tied up in that time, because you only pay then the balance once it arrives in Amazon. So you can ask for terms like that, and if they are open to it, if you've got a good relationship with a supplier, they know that you sold out your first order, and they're open to helping you. So make sure you do make these requests on second or third orders. So we come to the end of the presentation. So just to quickly go over what we covered. We talked about the level of demand through finding the level of demand for keyword research. We looked at competitor analysis. Also looked at the budgeting, which is kind of went over a bit quicker than I'd like, but that is obviously one of the key factors in making sure that you've got the budget to get this product to where you want it to be. And we touched on dealings with suppliers. So now we've got some time for Q&A, and whilst we're doing that, I shall leave my contact details, so you can obviously, anything we don't answer during the session, you can contact me afterwards.